Let's look at solving some more single variable equations by looking at word problems involving age. Bobbie's present age is a multiple of 9. Last year, Bobbie's age was a multiple of 7. If Bobbie is between 15 and 45 years old, how old is he? Let's put this question on a timeline. Here is our timeline. This point on our timeline presents the time now. So how old is Bobbie now? Well, this is what the question is asking. The problem also tells us that Bobbie's age now is a multiple of 9, and that he is between 15 and 45 years old. So, let's write out all the multiples of 9 that are between 15 and 45. 18, 27, and 36 are all multiples of 9 that are between 15 and 45. But keep in mind that these multiples do not include 15 and 45. They are only the multiples of 9 between 15 and 45. Now, let's look back at the question. Last year, Bobbie's age was a multiple of 7. So let's go back 1 year on our timeline. The problem tells us that Bobbie's age 1 year earlier is a multiple of 7. That is between 15 and 45. So, let's write out all the multiples of 7 that are in this range. And those are 21, 28, 35, and 42. Now, we are asked to find Bobbie's age now. But how can we do that? Well, Bobbie's age 1 year before should be 1 less than his age now. So, to find his age 1 year before, we can subtract 1 from each of these options. Let's do that. 18 minus 1 is 17, which is not on this list. So, Bobbie is not 18 years old now. Well, what if Bobbie is 27? 27 minus 1 is 26, which again is not on this list. Finally, what if Bobbie is 36 years old? 36 minus 1 is 35. This works. So this tells us that Bobbie was 35 years old last year and is now 36 years old. But just to be sure, let's check our work. And to do that, let's make sure that our answer fits the criteria given to us in the problem. The problem tells us that Bobbie's age now is a multiple of 9 between 15 and 45. 36 is a multiple of 9 between that range. The problem also tells us that last year, Bobbie's age was a multiple of 7 in the same range. And 35 is a multiple of 7 between 15 and 45. So, our answer is correct. Bobbie is 36 years old now. Now, let's look at another example. Alvin is 3 years older than Bryan. Bryan is 5 years older than Melvin. The sum of their ages is 31. How old is Bryan? Here is Alvin, Bryan, and Melvin. The question is asking us to find Bryan's age. So how can we do that? Well, the problem tells us that Alvin is 3 years older than Bryan. It also tells us that Bryan is 5 years older than Melvin. So, let's start by assuming Melvin's age. Because if we assume Melvin's age, we can find Bryan's age, and then we can find Alvin's age. So, let's assume Melvin's age using a variable. We can use the variable A for Melvin's age. So, Melvin is A years old. Well, then how old are Bryan and Alvin? The problem tells us that Bryan is 5 years older than Melvin. And we know Melvin is 8 years old. So, Bryan must be A plus 5 years old. Now, what about Alvin? He is 3 years older than Bryan. So, we can add 3 years to Bryan's age, which gives us A plus 5 plus 3, which we can simplify down. 5 plus 3 is 8. So, Alvin is A plus 8 years old. Now we know how old these 3 boys are. But the question tells us to find Bryan's age. Well, in order to find his age, we need to know the value of A. And we can find the value of A by setting up and solving a single variable equation to find the value of A. But how should we set up our equation? The problem tells us that the sum of all three ages is 31. So, to set up our equation, we can add Alvin's age, Bryan's age, and Melvin's age to equal 31. So let's do that. This gives us A plus 8 plus A plus 5 plus A, which is equal to 31. Now, let's take out the parentheses. Next, let's combine like terms on the left side of the equal sign. A plus A plus A is 3A. And 8 plus 5 is 13. 3A plus 13 is equal to 31. Now, let's take 13 to the right side of the equation. 3A is equal to 31 minus 13, which is 18. So, 3A is equal to 18. Now, let's take 3 to this side of the equation. This gives us A is equal to 18 over 3, or A is equal to 6. So now we know that Melvin is 6 years old. But what about Bryan and Alvin? We know that Bryan's age is A plus 5, and A is equal to 6. So, 6 plus 5 is equal to 11, which means that Bryan is 11 years old. Well, how old is Alvin? Again, we can plug in the value of A. 6 plus 8 is 14. So, Alvin is 14 years old. And since the problem is asking the age of Bryan, we know that Bryan is 11 years old. But just to be sure, let's check our work. We found out Alvin is 14, Bryan is 11, and Melvin is 6. But to make sure that we have the correct answer, we can add all of their ages and we should get 31, which is what the problem tells us. So, let's add 14 plus 11 plus 6. And this gives us a sum of 31. So, our answer is correct.